Hello students, welcome to another lecture of this online lecture series. And today the topic that I have taken up is 4.1 History of Novel. Now this section is the section 4th of your textbook, and it's an important section because this section contains 4 topics, and all the 4 topics are compulsory questions. There is no option. Now, the section that I've taken up today, the topic that I've taken up today is known as History of Novel. Okay. Now, this particular section is important because, as I told you, from every section, questions will be asked. They can be in the form of map the column, complete the following, fill in the blank, select the correct option, any two to be selected from 4 options. Already there will be choices within the question, but all the questions will be compulsory. It may be in the form of MCQ or it may be in the form of answer. There is no clear clarity given on what kind of questions that can be asked for this topic. But then, as it is compulsory, students, you all need to go through these 4 topics clearly. So today we are going to do the first topic, 4.1 History of Novel. Now, novel. Already you've studied prose. You have been studying prose right from your lower classes in school. Already there are lessons, the poetry, drama, and short story. But from all these literature forms, novel is a form which has become very famous. It is liked by many people all over the world. All right. Novels are not necessarily written in English. There are novels written in our regional languages as well, like Gujarati, Marathi, Hindi, etc. And they are widely read too. So what makes this novel quite famous, quite liked by all? When did this start? And how did this start? All this is about history of novel. So as you can see on the screen, novel, the word is derived from Italian word novella, Novella, which means new. What is a novel? Now, novel is a piece of long narrative. Okay, it's quite long, right? A novel, there are people who finish off novel in a particular day, one day. But then they utilize that complete one day. But then it's really long. So you cannot just finish off in 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. You need a long time because it's really long. All right, it's written with a purpose. Okay, it's written with a purpose, a motive. Either it is to entertain or educate, give some message, whatever. Description of chain of events. It has got a particular order. Okay, it is a genre of fiction writing. Genre means kind, a type of fiction writing. Now, what is fiction? It is the opposite of fact. Fact is reality, what we read from newspapers. But fiction is something imaginary. It's made up with a clear purpose, as it's written on the screen, to entertain, all right, or to educate the audience. Now, novel is longer than a short story, definitely. It contains hundreds of pages, but it's shorter than a novella. Yes, dear students, pay attention. Short story is really short, as the name suggests, whereas novella is slightly bigger than a short story. And the biggest form, written form, is a novel. All right. So novel contains imaginary people, places, events, human experiences. So anything that a person has experienced, a person has seen, a person wishes to convey, that is what is written in a novel. Okay. For instance, if a writer is quite fascinated about after coming back from a foreign country or from a village, all right, he might, or if he is impressed by a human being, all right, or in particular event, a major event for him or for her, then the writer might think of writing on that particular topic. All right. Now, this form did not originate in India as such. All right. It originated in England. It presents a realistic picture of everyday life and problems of common people are described. Yes, even though it is fiction, all right, it is very close to people's life. It touches people's life. Now, invention of machine, all right, during the revolution in Europe, all right, invention of machines, they provided time to the educated middle class to read. It was a combination of drama, poetry, along with, but it also drama and poetry, but along with new features. So it was something better, something different than a drama, a poetry, and it also contains some new interesting features. All right, so that is the reason this has caught fascination and attention of readers all over the world. Now, it's an important literary form of the 18th century. All right, it also creates a picture of the society of the time in which it is written. Yes, when we read a story, all right, the teacher always tells you to understand the background of the story or the poem during which it is written. Only when you understand the background of the story, you will get a better idea or you will get a clearer picture and you'll be able to understand the novel really well. All right. Now, history of novel goes back to 2000 years ago. All right. The initial novels, all right, they were just imaginary and they contain more of love stories. All right, they were not really close to reality or there were no forms as such. But then as time passed, all right, there were people who were writing a lot of novels as well. All right, now the first European novel is Don Quixote by Cervantes, and it was published in two parts. That is why, students, we have two different dates, 1605 and 1615. All right. Even in England, the novel appeared after Industrial Revolution in 1740. Industrial Revolution was a time when in England there were a lot of machines that were experimented upon, created. All right, it was an age of machines. Okay, now look at this screen. Earliest novelist John Bunyan, and in the bracket you have the name of the book, The Pilgrim's Progress. Afra Ben, and the name of the book is Orunku. Daniel Defoe, Robinson Crusoe. So in the bracket, students, it's the name of their book. Okay. Now Robinson Crusoe. It's very interesting to note that Robinson Crusoe is about a character who gets lost, who gets marooned on an island. There's nobody with him. All right. His ship, it goes for a wreck. All right. And then later on, he is marooned on an island. So the experiences that he has on that island is what is there in this book. It's quite interesting and it's one of the classics. Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travels. Now I'm sure when you look at this image, you know what the story is, right? Yes, there was this man, Gulliver. It is about his experiences, interesting experiences. Once he visits a place where he finds all of them are dwarfs. They're all very minute people. And the picture on the screen, you can make out what the story is. And the second time later on when he visits a place, all right, he finds there are people much more taller than him. So he finds himself very small and tiny. So it's quite interesting. Kids of all ages, even today, enjoy reading this book. This main novel, students, has been adapted for children in simpler words with a lot of pictures, and it has been made really interesting. Then the 18th century novelist. You can see the names: Samuel Richardson. Students, you need to study these slides really well, because then you can have something known as match the column, as I told you, or select an odd man out. So you can have a lot of activity questions on this particular topic. So this topic 4.1 carries 4 marks. So, and it's compulsory, so you need to really do it. You need to be familiar with all the names. Henry Fielding, Tobias Smollett, Charles Dickens. Now, Charles Dickens, Thomas Hardy, these are all classics. But out of all of them, it was Charles Dickens, Thomas Hardy who were really famous. All right. Again, Charles Dickens, students, as you can see on the screen, Oliver Twist. It's a story of a boy who is an orphan. All right. He's an orphan, and the experiences that he has in an orphanage, that is what is it, gives a picture of the society, a darker picture of the society. All right, usually when you read a novel, you kind of expect something really sweet, really nice, but not all novels are like that. But it's really an interesting one to read. And these novels, students, they are all part of literature and education. Okay, now 20th century novelists. Okay, the recent ones. The recent ones. All right, look at the long list. Students, this is not a complete list. There are many, many, many more all over the world. As I said, even though this particular form started in England, it was born in England, but then it became so famous with the readers that even today it is followed by all. It is loved by all. Okay, so we have E.M. Foster, Joseph Conrad, George Orwell, B.H. Lawrence, James Joyce, Henry James, Graham Greene, William Golding. All right, these are all names that are there in your text as well. And there were these immigrant writers, all right, writers who were not there in England as such. They became famous for their writings. Okay, we have Salman Rushdie from India, an Indian immigrant. Okay, he went over there, England. B.S. Naipaul, and then we have somebody from Japan, Kozol Shigura. The name is a little difficult to understand, but then students, we need to know these names. Next, coming to women writers, there are a lot of women writers as well. Very initially, in the beginning, there were many women writers who never revealed their identity. They wrote books or poetry under a pseudonym. Pseudonym means a pen name. They never revealed their identity from the fear that maybe the society will not accept whatever they have done. All right. But then slowly and gradually they were accepted. But some of these writers, their writings were published only after they were dead. They were no more. Okay. So Frances Burney, Anne Radcliffe, Mary Shelley, Jane Austen, Emily and Charlotte Bronte, they were sisters. All right. Now these women writers, their main protagonist was mostly women. In some of these books, they portrayed women like just like them, very shy, simple. All right, because that was how those times were in England. All right, women were educated, but then not much of exposure. Okay, Virginia Woolf. As time passed, students, as you can see, these last writers, Virginia Woolf, Agatha Christie, they took up more bolder topics. All right, in their writing, they selected bolder topics for their writing. Okay, so Agatha Christie, she is quite famous for her mystery novels. As you can see, there are a list of novels written by Agatha Christie, and she is a much highly in demand writer even today. Okay, so as you can read the name on the screen, so you can see sleeping murder, murder. So she basically writes more about those murder mystery novels, but then the way she writes is really very impressive. Now, coming to Indian novelist, all right. Before we got our independence, okay, when we were ruled by the British, they they started English schools for Indians, all right, and that was how we Indians learned their language, all right. The basic intention was maybe different, but then we got a lot of advantage because many Indians could read a lot of material written all over the world, which was in English. All right, we have lot of writers. Okay, many more writers. These are only a few names again. Okay, so Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. Okay, his was the first novel, The Indian Field. His was the first novel written in English by an Indian. He also wrote Raj Mohan's wife. Okay, the trio. Trio is the three writers who were ruling at that time. That is Mulk Raj Anand. I'm sure you all are familiar with R.K. Narayan. R.K. Narayan, students 1.1. All right, the lesson that we have done. Okay, that is by R.K. Narayan. And then we have Raja Rao. So these three writers, whatever and whenever they wrote, they had a basic theme of nationalism because that was what we were fighting for, our freedom. So most of the writers, whatever they wrote, carried the basic message of freedom or nationalism, or else it was social issues. All right, social issues meaning illiteracy or women empowerment. These were the social issues, or it could be independence as well. All right, and then there were these another set of writers after all these people who took the Indian novels in front of the world. They gave the Indian novels another new direction, a tide, a flavor, a modernistic flavor which was liked by people. All right. And that's see Nayantara Sehgal, Arun Joshi, Manohar Malgaonkar. There are these writers who are quite famous. Then the modern Indian English writers. Okay, the modern one that is after independence. We have Amitav Ghosh, Vikram Seth, all right, Upamanyu Chatterjee, Arvind Adiga, Salman Rushdie again. Now Arundhati Roy, okay, her book, God of Small Things, it has won a prize, an international prize. Okay, Kiran Desai, Kiran Nagarkar. Okay, again it's interesting to note that Vikram Seth's another story or another novel, as we can say, A Suitable Boy. It's being, I guess, serialized. All right. So we'll be able to see that on the screen. Now, this was about novel. Now, as I introduced to you in the beginning, we have something known as novella as well. Now, remember students, novella is much shorter than a novel. So let's just go through the different features of a novella. Novella is a word originated from Italian word novel. Okay, it's a type of prose fiction. It's a prose, it's not poetry. That is why we say that it is shorter than a novel. That is the third point. It is well structured, but what is the main difference? First one, that it is shorter than a novel, and as it is short, it focuses only on one incident or an issue. All right, whereas a novel is so huge that it can focus on multiple characters and multiple issues simultaneously. So some of the famous novellas are The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, Turn of Crew by Henry James, Billy Budd by Herman Melville, Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. Now again students, you need to understand these names, probably learn them because they can come for map the column. So now that we have understood what exactly is a novel and what exactly is a novella, let's just go to the elements of a novel or novella. What are the elements now? Elements meaning what is a novel made up of? All right. What are the ingredients that go in making a beautiful or a successful novel? So the first ingredient or the first element that we can say is the theme. Now, the writer will select a particular theme. It can be probably romance, or it can be murder mystery, it can be something related to a social issue, etc. So that's your theme. So after theme, the next important element in any novel is its plot. Plot is the main story. All right. After the theme is selected, the writer decides upon the plot, the idea. All right. Later on, after the plot, what is more important is the other characters. There can be just one character, but since it's a novel and it's big, already it's huge, there cannot be just one character. So there are multiple characters. There can be women, there can be men, women, children, animals. It can be anything. All right. So events take place because of certain behavior of characters. So that is how a novel is made interesting. A particular character's behavior in a certain way is what catches attention of the readers. Then comes the setting. That is the background of the story. Where exactly is the story set? Is it a village? Is it a city? Is it a town? Is it set in recent times? Or is it set in many decades long ago? Or is it set in some time of a historical period? So that is the setting. Then comes the conflict. Conflict is struggle between the opposites. Again, this is what creates interest. Opposites meaning good, bad, angelic, devilish, rich, poor. The conflict. Okay, how strong the hero is. The character of the protagonist or the main hero or heroine, it develops in this course of conflict. Last but not the least, that makes a novel famous is its language or style, the way the writer has written this particular novel. Has he started from the present time, or is he going into the flashback? Is he talking about the future? How exactly has he used? Okay, what exactly has he done to narrate the story? Has he written the entire novel from the point of view of one person, or is it every person's point of view? Okay, so these are all the elements, all right? As I said, successful ingredients which makes a novel famous. Now, types of novels. Students, there are so many types. A selected few are taken in your lesson. Now, the first one is a realistic novel. Realistic novel is also known as novel of manner, wherein it is very close to reality. Next is a Picard's novel. Picard's, it narrates the adventures of the protagonist. For example, the Gulliver's Travel, adventures that the protagonist has encountered. Then comes the historical novel. Now, as the name suggests, it is definitely got to do something with history. And when I say history, it is past tense. So it is definitely set in the earlier period. Epistolary novel. So a narrative is presented in series. It can be in chapters. It cannot be in continuation. So it's presented in series. Gothic novel. Now, Gothic is something that's famous and what many readers enjoy reading because it's about terror, mystery, hauntedness, okay, and a haunted village or a house, all right, etc., etc. Autobiographical. As the name suggests, it is based on the life of a character or the life of author himself. That would be the better way to say it. It can be in first person, wherein the author uses the pronoun I, me, or it can be some other form as well. But that's about the life of the author. Allegorical novel. The novel has got several meanings. Okay, there's one meaning which you read, and there's another meaning, a hidden meaning which you interpret. Sort of a poem. All right, this character is there present in a poem. Because when we read a poem, you are told that the poem has got several meanings. One that we read and one that we understand. So students, this is the reason we say that a novel is a combination of drama and poetry, but it has got some elements of its own as well. Okay, then comes a utopian novel. Now, this kind of novel, the word utopia, it originated in the times of war, when there were many people who had lost hope that something good is going to happen. During this time, there were certain writers and there were a lot of poets as well. They created an imaginary world where everything is just perfect. So that kind of literary form is a utopian novel. Psychological novels. So they portray or give importance to what exactly is going inside a character's mind or the characters present in the novel. What exactly goes on inside their mind, something that they don't talk about loudly or share with anyone. That's a deep inner thought, and that is what makes the novel interesting. Stream of consciousness novel. So here, the thoughts of the character, they're just flowing freely. Okay, they're in a sequence though, but then they're flowing. Okay, then Bildungsroman novel. Another kind of novel wherein a character's growth is shown, maybe from childhood to adulthood, adulthood to old age, something like that, where you find a character growing as the novel proceeds. Okay, as you go on reading the novel, you find that the character is growing. Now, how are these questions or how is this topic going to be tested for you? So, this topic is for 4 marks. As I told you, it's compulsory. And the certain expected type of questions in the board exam are, it can be match the column, odd man out, complete the follow. All right. Or last but not the least, write short notes. So whatever it is for 4 marks, and as it is compulsory, there are no choices as such. Students, you need to read. Now that the topic is done, your job starts, my dear students. You should be going through the video as many times as possible. Try to understand and then probably learn the names of a few writers. With this, I come to the end of the topic. Students, I just hope that you enjoy studying this topic. All right. Thank you. I'll be soon back with another new topic from your curriculum.